Hey reviewers, welcome back to Supermariodiagnostics. Once again, today we are working on a 2012 Mazda 3. It's got a 2-liter engine in it, and these are naturally aspirated. The customer's concern is that it runs rough. Now, before I give you the history on it, we've got, I think for the first time in this channel, our very own cameraman. We've got my co-worker, Esteban.
Hey, what's up, y'all?
Right, holding the camera. And we've got a nice little opportunity to film, so we're gonna try to do a quick little diag here, hopefully. And I want Esteban to, I put a mic on him. I want him to be the audience, right? So I have an issue where sometimes I don't explain things pretty well for the average audience, right? So there's all levels of knowledge, right, in this industry, and I can't assume that everyone is just going to be at the same level. I'm not trying to boast or anything. It's just the truth is that there could be someone who's absolutely green on this and they're trying to get into diag, and I may say things, you know, naturally, but they might just be like, oh well, what is he saying? You know, what is he talking about? So relative compression is one example. So we're gonna have Esteban hopefully ask us as many questions as possible so that we could go through the whole thing as if I'm addressing directly the audience. It's something I am working on, and hopefully this will help with that. A bit of a backstory on this is that this came from a year ago. They replaced all the injectors. This I believe is a GDI. This is a GDI. It's got a rail underneath the intake that's classic GDI characteristic. You don't have port injected rail on the top. That was about a year ago. They replaced all 4 injectors, GDI injectors, and it seems like I'm just assuming here everything was fine. And about a month ago, they replaced all the coils and plugs on this vehicle, and that was a month ago. And now it's running rough. It's not running smooth. And the customer brought it over to us that those jobs were not done by us in the past. So take that how you will. I'm not talking down on any shop. You know, like I'm pretty sure they fixed the issue a month later, a year later. All that stuff happened. But the fact is, we have a shake. So I drove it in. We drove it in. We could feel it. We're gonna go ahead and recreate the symptom. Let's go ahead and start up the car. I'm gonna take my scan tool with me anyway because we're gonna scan it, right? So might as well. I typically like to put a maintainer on these things, but I won't this time. And I'm gonna have to do the whole classic search for the OBD port. And it's way up over here for some reason.
What would you recommend to put a maintainer on it?
I just don't like to be that guy to be like, oh, I gotta jump in now. You know, I killed the customer's battery. Sometimes, you reset radio lock codes. Sometimes, like with Nissans, you'll reset the throttle body, idle relearn and whatnot, the idle position and whatnot. There's several reasons. Like BMWs, the footwell module will stop working if the voltage gets too low and you try to crank it. And then your windows, an indicator of that happening is like your windows just stop working and whatnot. I mean, if you've got a Jaguar and you do that, you could pretty much kiss the BCM goodbye. It gets corrupted. There's ways to recover it. We do that. But, it's usually pretty expensive to fix. And yeah, there's several examples of why you don't want the battery to get too low. So, but with Mazda, I think you could literally just like toss the battery across the shop and you'll be fine. Like you put it right back in and nothing will happen, But so that's why I don't have it really connected. But usually I do. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and start it up and try to do justice here in describing what we're feeling. We have 184,000 miles on the clock. We have a check engine light on, and it's got to shake. It's got to shake. It's not a consistent misfire, I'll say that much. And when it does misfire, it doesn't feel like too like terrible. So let's go to the front, scan this thing. We got our top down scanning this thing. This is my go-to. I use it for everything. You know, it's kind of like Red Hots. Only some of you will get that. Red Hots hot sauce. Frank's Red Hots. Anyway. It's got a shake. It's not like a dead miss. I would like to start disconnecting, but I also want my pre-scan, so I'm gonna grab my pre-scan before I go too far, because I don't want to just like cause new codes. So pretty sure it has DSC, lane change assist not fitted, advanced keyless. Yeah, let's call it. This might be the first Mazda we get in the channel. Tire pressure monitor, it does, and the TPMS light is on, left hand drive. We're gonna do a high speed scan. I love that, to be honest with you, I really do. We got random misfire and a cylinder 4 misfire as well. Let's see if we have any live data. The check engine light was not flashing, so that's better. You know, because if it was flashing, it wouldn't be too great.
What and why? What's the reason why it wouldn't be too great?
So when it's flashing, it usually means that the catalytic converter is taking damage. It's getting beat up. It's like, ah, you know, it's stop. So it starts flashing. So let's see if we got misfire there. That'd be great. Usually, mist. We don't need mist. We need misfire. For catalyst damage, so you see that if the check engine light's not flashing, it might not even do that. So let's see. Cylinder 2. Cylinder 4 is going crazy. Let's see. I'm going to save my pre-scan though. Super quick. I like how easy they make this. It's really easy. So I save my pre-scan. Now I can start disconnecting stuff, right? It said number 4, so we're just gonna go to number 4. It said 255 for number 4, and it gets worse. So like it feels like a dead miss now. Before it didn't, now it does. But it's not totally dead, because when I disconnect it, the RPM changes. So now the question is, what's causing our shake? What's causing our misfire? Is that a live misfire? Is it still happening? Is it a previous misfire? Is the shaking a direct result of a incomplete combustion, right? Because it's not a dead miss. So you can rule out certain things right there, right? Like when I disconnect the coil, it's a brand new coil. But when you disconnect it, it gets worse. So that tells me coil is likely good. I'm worried about the injectors. Usually I would expect to see trim issues. Well, oh, there it is. Long term, short term. 14% lean on the long, and up to -8. So honestly, that's not enough for me to say, oh, this is an injector issue, right? I would expect to see like 30, 25%. But for this, when the sum of this is just like less than 10%. We could also take a look at secondary ignition. Let's just knock that out real quick. This tool is great, but it's not perfect. I'm not gonna lie. So we're looking at number 3 here. Slightly lean. It's a VDI. That's normal. We got about 1.8 milliseconds of burn time, and about the same on number 4. I don't see a real difference here. They look identical. It's not enough for me to say something, but what I can do is rule out an ignition issue. I don't think we have a fuel delivery issue either. I don't see a sky-high lean condition. I don't see a sloping downward thing either. So we're gonna have to keep digging. And I already broke one of my main rules. Do you remember what one of my main rules is for Misfire? Always start with a what?
The relative compression test?
Yeah.
And why is that? Well, we should start with that.
Relative compression test is one of the easiest tests you could do. It gives you the most answers for the engine mechanical, and it's very little investment, time investment, and it's very high information yield. So, and usually it's one of the most expensive repairs you could do. So if you can get the most answers quickly as to what the possible most expensive repair may be, that'd be the best case scenario. So I've got my coworker waiting for me. I'm gonna just stop right here. Actually, no, you could just keep recording. Smoothie? Yeah. So we like smoothies here. We're recording everything. We like smoothies here. And, hey, Esteban, you want a smoothie? Not a sponsor. Thanks, bro. Appreciate it. Huh? Taco Hope. The biggest one they got. That thing's great. It's a meal replacement, but not really. Anyway, not to get too far off track. Relative compression test. What do we need for that? You know what? We could do a clear flood. We could do a listening. Like we could listen to it first before we go too far. But I have been fooled by it sounding good and then not actually being good. So let's listen to it first, right? Let me go around.
And what's exactly a clear flow? What were we?
So, yeah, great question. The relative compression test, I'm going to disconnect my scanner because I really don't need it anymore. And the relative compression test is pretty much, well, the clear flood mode, right, is what we're doing. The relative compression involves a scope. Relative compression testing involves a scope. And that, theoretically, the starter is consuming current, right, is applying current. The battery is giving current to the starter in order to turn the engine. And theoretically, each cylinder gives the same amount of compression, the same amount of resistance against the starter. So by measuring the current of the starter while cranking, you know, we don't let it start, we crank it. We should see a very even, uniform pattern, right, of current going up and down, up and down. More compression equals more current, less compression equals less current. So if you were to see less current on every 4 cylinders, that would tell us that it requires a lesser amount of effort for the starter to go past that lower contributing cylinder than it would require for the one that does have good compression, if that makes sense. Did I like complicate this thing like way too much? Did I? Does that make sense to you?
It does.
All right, cool. We're gonna assume it makes sense to everybody. But the clear flood, this is a Mazda, but it's really a Ford, I think. And usually Fords are pretty good about this. So we're gonna, you know, do the gas pedal all the way down, and that tells the car clear flood mode. In other words, you know, back in the day that was to clear the cylinders from fuel, but now they cut injector pulls to all cylinders. So we're gonna do that and listen to the rhythm of the cranking of the engine. So I got my foot all the way down. We're gonna do that. I hear something. You heard it? You heard it too?
No, not really.
Really? I heard something on the first one, on the first cranking. But, you know, that could be low battery, so that's another reason why we put a maintainer on this. I'm gonna put a maintainer on it for now anyway. We got the tap down with the long codes, the long cables, I mean. And I gotta say, I'm still impressed by this. You guys seen the review video on this? Got it months ago, if not a year ago, and it's been great. It's been great. Scope. We got the Pico. You don't have to have a Pico. You could have, yeah, something else. But a Pico sure helps. If you're in the automotive industry and you're doing this all the time, Pico seriously helps, right? If you're the everyday, consumer that doesn't work on cars, you're probably not going to want to do this. But there are many other scopes out there you can use, but then you also need the M clamp and whatnot. So I need to go get that, which I have it way over here. Times have changed. I don't use my diet card that much anymore. I use it for storage now. So we've got our TA167 Pico. It's got a 2000 amp max rating. And I actually sent this out to Pico so that they could give me a long cable. That way I could go all the way to the back of these long cars sometimes, like this Rolls Royces and all that. And do one of these. And we're gonna put that around our battery negative. It says positive, but it really means negative. If that couldn't be any more confusing, there's this whole, conventional versus, electron flow, all that stuff. I'm not gonna get into all that right now. So we're gonna set up our scope, right? So if you wanna zoom into this, I'm not doing screen recording right now, we got time for that. We're gonna do, let's say 5 seconds per division. We're gonna do, I like to just jump this up to 10, honestly. And we're gonna select our probe, and we're on the 2000 amp mode, and we're gonna put 1000 amps. There's no way this thing's gonna take more than 1000 amps. We could sync it, right? So, but I don't feel like it, right? Because I want to get to the answer fast, right? Time is money. So we're kind of trusting the data. Cylinder number 4 code. We got live data, cylinder number 4, 255 counts. If I see something, I'm gonna jump at number 4, honestly. But should we sync it anyway for the sake of education, or what do you think?
Let's do it. Make it more fun.
All right. I got you. Now, the thing is, it's secondary ignition. Ideally, I would like to put a paddle on there. And I've got my paddle here somewhere.
So what's the idea behind syncing it?
Great question. Syncing it identifies the cylinder. And, it gives tangible proof that it's this particular cylinder, because if we just do an RC test or relative compression test without syncing it and we see something, and let's just assume that we didn't have any other data that told us number 4, we'd be like, all right, which cylinder is it now? So then we sync it so that we can use the firing order in order to identify which cylinder is the one that has low compression. So in this case, we're just gonna sync it to number 4. And since it's a paddle, we're probably gonna use some tape. I'm gonna grab some tape here. Right? Unless you want to hold it down. You don't mind? Yeah. All right, cool. Let's do that. So we're gonna do cylinder chapter, channel 2. And we're gonna do, actually we might be able to just tuck it right there actually. That'd be cool. This is where the wise probe would be pretty cool because the wise probe you can like mold it onto there. But just in case, maybe we'll get our buddy Esteban to push down right there. Right? And then we're gonna set up the scope. And then we're gonna go to channel B and set up our probe. Hey man, you trying to kill my Pico? Secondary ignition probe. We're gonna do inverted, we're guessing here, right? Sometimes I've gotten it right on the first try. We're gonna do, we really just wanna see a spike. That's all we want, it's the sync. We don't really care about anything else. So that should be good. If you don't mind holding that down for me, I'm gonna go ahead and crank it again. We're doing the clear flood mode again. Holding the pedal down. You know, this sucks and it's kind of cool at the same time. Check this out. We got no sync, but when the car starts, we got ignition. I'm pretty sure Esteban was holding it down the whole time. So, the only other time I was able to do something like this, like to see this, was during the Mustang video that I did, like, woo, what, 5 years ago? No, more than that. Ford's, for some reason, cuts off spark. Yeah. They cut off spark during the clear flood. That makes no sense to me, but okay. It is what it is, right? And I gotta see something here. I'm gonna magnify this real quick. And we do see a discrepancy. We see like an upward, upward, upward. You see that? You see that like down right here? And then 4 away is another one down. Count 3, and then another one down. Count 3, another one down. So, yeah, we have a discrepancy in current requirements for a particular cylinder, current draw, so to speak. And I'm gonna tag it to number 4. You know, we don't have a sync, unfortunately, but like we do have other data to support that. You know, we have reason to believe that number 4 is an issue. So how can we get so if it was a valve, like let's say a bent valve, I would expect to see a dead miss, like completely low compression, right? Can you think of another reason why a cylinder might have slightly low compression but not completely dead? You're a Honda guy.
Well, on Hondas, the valves will lose adjustment.
The
adjustment
valve
will
lash.
go off, and yeah, you probably have an intermittent misfire, and it will also depend on the temperature of the engine.
Yeah, it may get worse when it's hotter, right?
Yes.
But this is hydraulic. This is hydraulic lash adjusters, man. I think Honda's like the only brand that still does
Yeah.
like manual lash adjustment on their newer engines. If that, I think they stopped that, to be honest with you.
Well, the newer engines now, they come hydraulic.
Hydraulic?
Yeah,
All
they
right.
went hydraulic.
It's been a while, so
Yeah.
I haven't actually opened up one of those newer ones or looked at service info about that. Is there another reason why a cylinder would have not dead zero compression but slightly lower? It doesn't look dead. It doesn't feel like a dead miss. What are you thinking? I'm thinking lower end, right? If it was an upper end issue, I'd expect to see, you know, a big compression change, a big compression issue. And I think that the easiest thing we could do, right? The quickest thing that we could do and easiest would be get a Borescope in there. We get a Borescope in there and take a look at the cylinder walls. And at the very least, if we could take a look at the cylinder walls and everything's fine, we could proceed. But if we see the cylinder walls are messed up, then we can, you know, shut this down. 185,000 miles, we're not rebuilding this thing. It would need an engine. People these days, right? Let's go ahead and remove the spark plug and stick a Borescope in there and go from there. That looks like a 10 millimeter up top. So we got our tools. Let's see here. All right, let's take a look. Oh, wait a minute. This may not even be the right size. Let me take a look. No. You saw that, right? Oh, we're good. For some reason, Ford decided it was a good idea to have like a cavity wide open in there. This could be a 14 millimeter. I have seen those. I totally forget sometimes. It is a 14. Let's see. Hopefully the piston is down and we could just, you know, stick a Borescope in there, take a look at the wall. That'd be great. NGK spark plugs. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Let's see. Let's take a look, see? If I could get the Borescope in there. And unfortunately, my piston is not down. It'd be nice if it was. The good thing is this is a tiny engine. And I'm moving the crank by hand. But you know what? I'd rather get a tool in there. If I can, you know, fit one in there. I don't do anything without my flashlight, so we're gonna use this. It's gonna be a little bit of a tight fit. And my battery's running low. We're doing a one shot on this one, I think, right?
Yes, sir.
Be great if I could just reach. My hands aren't that little. Pretty sure it's a 21. Having a hard time with it. .22. Gonna use our little icon. Lock this down. Let's see. Nice. So I'm gonna get my piston as low as possible. I could have just bumped the starter, but we like to do things the hard way here. Let's go ahead and stick our Borescope in. I already see something. We got scoring. You see the up and down. And it does not look good. Let's keep turning this thing. I already see that spot right there. It is not pretty. Oh, look at that. When you see all this good and then you see this sudden discoloration, look at that. You gotta love that. The most answers, very little time. Borescope, guys, is the way to do it. I gotta say, the Borescope is one of the best investments I've ever made.
You mentioned scoring. What's exactly that, and what could cause it?
Scoring is when if you were to take a piece of glass and you were to grab a diamond and you were to cut and cut like a why am I having such a hard time explaining this? You were to have that, that, not that cut, but yeah, you're pretty much inscribing into the glass. That would be scoring. And what happens is that, let's say you were to get, the cylinder wall is supposed to be a crosshatch, right? Like it's supposed to be, it's not supposed to, it's supposed to be smooth. There's an oil film between the piston rings that keep a seal, and when you have scoring in the cylinder, it's biting into the piston rings and allowing that oil seal to escape and actually lose its sealing capability. So I would love to give an example somehow. It's kind of like, I don't have that tool with me here, but if you were to look over here, actually I'll just go get it. Pretend that this is your cylinder, right? This is your piston rings. If this was dry, you'd struggle to get it in there, but when you lube it up with some oil, it's able to move freely and it's able to compress, right? So, but if this wall here was not smooth and it was scored, this would have a very hard time sealing because it's able to allow the compression to escape through the seals. So essentially that's what's happening with our cylinder here. Like we have an imperfect or a non-smooth surface area within the cylinder walls, in the combustion chamber, on the cylinder walls, and it's not letting the seal to happen. And when you compress, that compression is leaking past that into the crankcase. So you have excessive crankcase pressures. That probably explains with the fuel trims. You have excessive crankcase pressures going through the PCV system right back into the intake, and it's a leaner condition. I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna stick to my guns on that one. I'm pretty sure that that compression is going right back into the crankcase, making its way through the PCV system and causing a slightly lean condition. But that's what's happening with this car. It's gonna need an engine. We're not rebuilding this thing. It's got almost 200,000 miles on it, on a Ford engine. It's gonna be an engine swap. So we're gonna see if the customer decides to replace the engine. By the looks of it, if I'm not mistaken, that's probably not gonna be an option for the customer. But we're gonna present our findings anyway and see what the customer decides to do and get right back at you guys. All right, so we have spoken to the customer, and unfortunately, they will not proceed with it. I will still release the video. This is still viable information. Do you have any questions that you would like for me to address before I close this video out? I think I was as thorough as possible. I think I explained as much as I could, but if anything comes to mind, now would be a great time to say it. But if there are no objections, I'm closing this video out. I thank you all for taking the time to watch. Consider subscribing, and hopefully I could get some more of these videos out there for you. In the meantime, subscribe, comment, hit like, put the bell notification, all that good stuff. You guys know how it goes. You know the thing, right? And y'all take care. God bless you. Take care.